Hello there, guys. Welcome back to my channel for yet another player ratings live stream following a Chelsea game, very closely. But for the first time, I think, a player ratings live stream after we didn't win, which is very disappointing. We were held to a very disappointing 1-1 draw with a, poor performance from all over the shop and some Thomas Tuchel madness, which today absolutely didn't work. And we will talk about all of that. Of course, as you can clearly see on screen, I am not by myself. I am joined by the man himself, Mr. J McIntosh, of course, part of the Chelsea social. First of all, check them out on socials. And my bro, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. I know there's a lot of negativity at the moment. I'm trying not to let Chelsea ruin my day, so I'm all right, man. I'm okay. How are you?
Well, other than the game, I'm good. Let's say that. Let me put it that way. And of course, by my partner in crime for these player rating live streams, Mr. CFCPys, bro. How are you? Other than let me say, other than the game. I hope you're well. Other than that.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. A bit annoyed, obviously, from the game. It's obviously taken up a lot of my energy today, but yeah, just really interested to see obviously Jay's opinions and your opinions, Laurenz. Yeah, and obviously the chat as well, see what they think about the game, because yeah, it was pretty annoying today for me. I just feel like it's points dropped rather than point gained, obviously. So yeah, I'm just very disappointed, to be honest.
For sure. Lewis and myself use the same StreamYard account, and this picture was just added here. So I'm gonna just click it and see what that is, right? Because it looks like some fancy crap. So Amino. So is that how he's trying to explain that Zouma messed up? I don't really know. We'll get to that later. Doesn't really matter right now. I just like, what was he brought up here? Any which way. Yes, exactly. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new to my channel, please be sure to subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. We're on the road to 10,000 subs. About 1.5, a little bit more than that away. So, let's get there as soon as possible. Smash the like button. Helps me push these videos out to more people because, like I said already before, YouTube likes on videos because they're like, oh, people enjoy this. So let us recommend it to more different people. Hence why the more of you to smash the like button, the better it is for me. So that'd be massively appreciated. And of course, if you fancy becoming a member, click the join button underneath. And if you really want to make sure that, I do see a chat message, or we do see a chat message, because of course it's a conversation of 3 people, so we can't get on to every comment in the chat. Do use the super chat function, but of course you don't have to. But I guess we just have to start from the back. Or no, actually, before we do that, give me your picks for who you really want to talk about before we get into individual players, right? And then also a super quick summary of the entire game. Let me go with you first, Pys.
So in terms of defenders, who do I think was the worst, basically, or just
in terms of the whole team?
Oh, in terms of the whole team,
the worst, best, everything you want to mention.
I mean, obviously, from the stand-up perspective, we're going to go with positive first, and I think you have to look at Mason Mount. Obviously, he was really good today. Really sort of pulled the strings in the midfield and attack. Thought he should have had assist at the end. Really should have done better with the volley. Maybe took it down and then hit it, or just volleyed it first time better. But yeah, I think Mason Mount was probably one of the positives today. In terms of negatives, I mean, I can go for different areas. I can go obviously Zouma for the goal, and his general ball playing ability. Alonso was just, oh my God, Alonso was awful, absolutely terrible, on and off the ball. He was shocking today. Werner as well, didn't think he was very good. Got into some dangerous positions, but end product wasn't there. Especially the cutbacks into the box were dreadful. He was giving away the ball so many times. It was ridiculous. Trying to think who else. I mean, Ziyech came on and was just pretty much like the Barnsley game, where we said Laurenz was, when he got pressed, he just lost the ball. Didn't really create anything. Granted, he was on 15 minutes, so I guess it could be a little bit harsh, but still, he's brought on to change the game. He's one of our signings. We expect a lot better from him. Hopefully he can adapt soon, but we've got games coming quick and fast. We need these players to turn up. I mean, there's a lot of other players I could go on about, but I'll be here forever, so I'll just go with them to start with. Those are some of my thoughts on the players, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, to be honest, I agree with most of what you've said so far, but Jay, what about yourself?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, like everyone's saying, there's really only 2 players that you can highlight as being worthy of praise almost, and that's obviously Kante for the most part, and Mason Mount, obviously. I think it's nice to take the positives out of these things, and as well, like, the reason I think the fan base is so dejected isn't we didn't actually lose. I think that's quite important to remember, because that's obviously going to get lost in these things. Like, there are things out of the club's control now in terms of results across the weekend that make this result, either mean more or mean less. It's the manner of the way that we played and looking completely lost. There was no identity really on the pitch. I think as soon as I saw the back three, I was concerned, because there's no sort of calming presence there, and that was slightly troubling. Reece James at wing back, I think he's a really decent player, but I think he has the ability to be a bit more forthright with the way he plays going forward, but sometimes I'm not sure he completely trusts himself, or his body language on the pitch might suggest that. You see a lot of, whilst he's amazing at crossing the ball, sometimes his backwards passes tend to frustrate me a bit, or he hesitates sometimes. But I imagine as he develops that will leave his game. Tammy, it's a real shame, because I like him a lot, and he was just poor. Werner was busy to start with, but again, didn't really do too much. He's caused a few problems, but I honestly thought he'd cause a lot more. And yeah, man, that's not really much else. I thought Alonso was all right. I thought Alonso was actually better than quite a few of the players on the pitch. He didn't have a great game by any, stretch of the imagination, but yeah, he was just does what he does. I mean, I can't expect any more from him.
That is fair enough. Can't really say more than that. Does tell me already what you just said, that we will have a very interesting discussion here, because I at least disagree on a couple of things that you said, and from what Pye said, maybe he as well. But I guess we start from the back with Edouard Mendy. Couldn't really do much for the goal, and can't really be blamed for anything else, I would say. I mean, obviously, he looked a bit silly how Mina set him down, but can't really criticise it. But obviously, he didn't keep a clean sheet. So it's difficult to rate him, really. In my opinion, I would probably give him an average 6, but kind of move on from there very quickly, because there's players that need a lot more talking about, don't they, Pice? But what would you give Mendy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for anything, to be fair. Obviously, the goal was, a little bit disappointed to see the way he got sat down, but it was pretty nice played from Minamino, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 probably a standard 6, I think. Maybe even a 5, I'm not sure. What do you guys think?
Yeah, go on, Jay. What are you saying?
I reckon I think a 5, 5.5, because POS mentioned it there. The goal was disappointing, and I pointed out, on the stream, what disappointed me is that when Minamino gets into that position, you always fancy the attacker there. But I felt as though Mendy could have made his presence felt a bit more, rushing out, close the space, make himself big. And I think he stopped halfway, because, Aspi was there, and it was just a bit of a shambles. But he didn't have too much to do. So I'm happy if you, Laurenz, want to pull rank and give him a 6. But yeah, 5 or 6, it's just an average game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you do make some fair points. I'm going to go for a 5.5 then, because, like I said, he could have certainly done a little bit better for the goal. Caught a couple of crosses as well, so that gives him the half point back, something like that. That's it for me. Jester's in the chat, by the way. Big up yourself. If you want to become a member like him, do click the join button underneath. What has he said? Zouma gets an elephant on ice. Is that it? All right, elephant on ice. We will get to the defenders now. Of course, starting with Azpilicueta. It's a weird one. Some people have criticised him in the chat of the Blues Fans TV live review earlier. Now it's I'm not saying it was great. But other than when he got spun after the corner, and then Vestergaard obviously ended up, crossing, heading against the bar, I don't think Aspi had a bad game, in my opinion. I don't think he should be faulted for the goal we conceded. That was, in my opinion, all on Zouma, because Aspi also had to watch out for Ings, who was outside of him. So I would give Aspi. It's always when you win, the whole team gets a better rating on average. While if you don't win / lose, or obviously draw, right? And it's a disappointing draw, the average score can't be that high either, in my opinion. So even when you didn't do anything particularly wrong, but you also didn't do anything particularly right. So because obviously Mendy could have done a bit better on one occasion, I'm not sure. Maybe I would push Aspi to the 6, because I think he did also very good in some situations. Let me go with Jay first now. Do you have anything specific to point out about Aspi, or would you just go for a 6, or what would you say?
I was critical of him last week. And it seemed a lot of people weren't. And I guess I took it perhaps that I was overcritical. My issue is that, you know, Aspi generally never drops a stinker, so that's fine. Like, and he today didn't. The only criticism, and it's quite a tough criticism that wouldn't apply to most players, but when a player like Azpilicueta, who's the club captain, has played over 400 times for the club, has played at a top level of football for the last decade, give or take, like, I expect from him a level of assurance that other players feed off, and it just seems as though Zouma and Rudiger didn't quite do that. And then when you look at when Thiago Silva's there, obviously there's that golfing, there's that class, but there's also complete reassurance. And I would like sometimes to see Aspi try and implement that onto players that perhaps aren't quite as strong or not as consistent, just to calm the backline down and stop Rudiger and Zouma being quite so erratic. But in terms of a rating, yeah, 6 is fine. I mean, he's definitely not at fault for the goal because he's tracking, you know, Southampton's most important man, Zuma's ball watching. So, yeah, 6 is cool.
Yeah, I would agree. Pye, what you're saying?
Yeah, it's probably interesting for me. I think I do agree with some of what Jay said, but I think 6 may be a bit pushing it a little bit. So I think for me, Aspi probably 5.5. I think just because we drew. I think obviously in some of our previous streams we give like 6s and 7s when we won. So like, and the players were kind of average like today. Some of them, like especially defenders. So I think for me, Aspi probably a 5.5. But I mean, if you guys want to go 6, and I'm happy to go 6. It's just obviously personal opinion. I don't think we can be giving like 6s and 7s when we didn't win and he didn't really make a massive impact. So yeah,
it's a weird one, really, isn't it? Because it's a difficult way to look at player ratings, because it's like, do you compare to the ratings you gave over the last few games, or do you look at it separately? Do you look at players individually, or do you compare them to other players? Because I'm like, well, Mendy could have done a bit better for a goal we conceded, which is partly what cost us points, while Aspi didn't do that mistake. So can I really rate Aspi as badly or the same as I rated Mendy? That's where I struggle with it. That's kind of why my head went with the 6. I don't necessarily disagree, and I definitely agree with what Jay said in terms of the captain, the guy that's played as many games as he has, should give a little bit more assurance to the rest of the team than Aspi tends to do. I don't know. Would you be happy with a 5.5, or would you be more, you know, going for the 6, Jay?
Yeah, 5.5 is all right as well. I mean, is what it is. He didn't do anything particularly outstanding. So 5.5 sit, then 5.5 sit. I'm good with that. All
right, off we go then. 5.5 it is. Kurt Zouma. Kurt bloody Zouma. Obviously, almost good. Was offside anyway, so it didn't matter. But almost good. Other than that, didn't win a single header in the final third. Which obviously everyone said, oh, that's the only reason why we don't score headers anymore and corners anymore, because Zouma isn't playing well then. Clearly not. But obviously he proper bottled that one for the goal. And, you know, realistically, that's probably him out of the starting 11 for a few weeks now, realistically. Thiago Silva on the way back. Still don't understand why Christensen didn't start today, but we'll get to Thomas Tuchel's rating just at the very end, because I have a lot of questions for him today. A lot of questions. And that's not just the subs. That's the starting 11 from the get-go, in my opinion. But yeah, Zouma, just in the chat said 3. I'm not even 100% sure whether I could 100% disagree. Maybe even a 2. I don't know. But 3 seems probably where I'd go, because you can't mess up that badly, because that was real bad. Like, he had no clue what was going on around him. Like, you're a footballer. You're a footballer at the level of Chelsea Football Club. You're in the middle of a back 3. Okay, not his fault. He didn't put himself there. That's why I would never put himself there, for those reasons. Just had no clue at all where Minamino was. Like, he had no idea where Aspi was, where Minamino was. He was just like, all right, someone will have him. No, you're not playing next to Thiago anymore now. So you need to do things yourself as well. I thought it was like that was just bad. I'm not even saying other than that he was so bad, he didn't really do anything wrong. His passing was poor, but hey, not really like so poor that I'm going to say I'm going to drop significant amount of points here. Because again, not his fault to play there. Shouldn't be playing there in the first place. But I would go for a 3. Pies, what are you saying?
2 for me. Shocking. No awareness, as like you said. Honestly, there was even like one moment, I think the cross came in and Mendy clearly had it. It was an easy claim. Like, could have just got down and caught it, and Zouma just booted it off the pitch for no reason. Like, there was just no communication in that back line. And honestly, people talk about Azpi as like this big captain and big leader and stuff, but the only big leader I see in our defence is Thiago Silva. Like, honestly, the guy carries the other defenders, like, ridiculously. Like, I'm so annoyed with the defence today. Like, honestly, I'm just shocked. Mainly with Zouma, as you can tell. I don't have words for this guy, honestly. Just bad on the ball. As you said, he didn't win his aerial duels. Everyone slates Christensen, right? But Christensen has been winning so many aerial duels lately and proper getting stuck in. So fair play to that lad. Like, people like love to like bash Christensen and all this, but he's been doing much better lately. And as you said, I would have preferred him to start today. Whether or not we're going to go back 3, obviously, again on Tuesday and then start Christensen, probably now that Zouma's made the mistakes. But honestly, Christensen just has so much more awareness than Zouma, and he's better on the ball. And as he's been showing lately, he can get up for his aerial duels and he can win his aerial duels. So, you can't even bash him for that anymore because clearly he can do it. So, yeah, for me, Zouma gets a 2. He was just shocking. No positional awareness at all. Terrible on the ball. Just so bad, man. So bad.
Fair. Jay, what are you saying?
Yeah. Three as well. Like, I agree with everything POS said there, to be honest. Like, I don't think I do think it's a bit of a reactionary thing to say it, in the sense that Zouma, like the conversation we're having, like it almost sounds like Zouma never wins aerial duels. Like that's actually fundamentally not true. It just happened to be today that he had a very, very poor game.
And we got a judgment on today, though, haven't we? So
yeah, of course. But then, like, I don't think generally it's true that he doesn't win his aerial duels, because he does. So that wouldn't be a reason to not include him in it.
He wins his aerial duels most of the time, mate. But today he was shocking. So this is on today. Got to go for it.
Today, fair enough. Then today he was really poor. I was trying to reason with Jamin Hajir, why Zouma lost his complete awareness. And part of me was thinking, perhaps maybe Zouma, when he doesn't have someone like Thiago who's constantly on him to make sure he's in the right place doing this, like he's seen Kante come out the traps on fire. And, in his head, which definitely shouldn't be the case, this isn't an excuse, but it's what I'm trying to think maybe was going through his head was like, well, maybe he just assumes Kante's going to get it. So he just starts ball watching and drifting. And then, elite footballers should always anticipate certain scenarios. You can't just, accept that one player's going to, do this, do that. You have to be prepared for whatever is going to happen. Zouma lacks that. I normally agree with Daniel Childs on the way that he looks at the game sometimes, but I disagree that he mentioned Zouma being good on the ball. I don't actually think he's very good on the ball at all. And I think that's a consistent theme for him. And today that showed. And it's sort of Tomori-esque in a way. I think what's going to happen with Zouma is he has a good first half of the season, then plays less in the second half, and he probably will want to go at the end of it. So, yeah, based on today, I think he gets a 2 or 3, yeah. He was the poorest player on the pitch, perhaps.
Okay. I think I will push a 3 because, yes, he was poor, I agree, but we also conceded 1 goal. It's not like we were, handed like 3 or 4. Do you know what I mean? So I think as much as, it's a bad result and whatever else, I think we also have to keep a little bit of objectivity and say a 2 is maybe a bit harsh for anybody. Yes, we weren't great, but you could argue that other than the goal and maybe the header, we were actually defensively really good. Okay, not necessarily the defense, because most of that was down to the very good counter press further up the pitch. But still, Southampton had, 2 efforts. And one was the goal and the other one was hitting the bar. I don't think they had another one. So, I don't think we can be that harsh in terms of rating the defenders. Hence why I'm going to push for the 3. But I do agree. Like that goal just cost him, I don't know. We gave Azpi a 5.5. Zouma would have probably, without conceding the goal, probably gets a 5 from me. So, that just pushes him down by the 2 for me. But, hey, fair that you might have even gone for a 2. And Rudiger is a difficult one. I don't think he was any better or any worse than Azpi. Quite frankly, he had a few good moments, including the opening pass to the attack early in the first half that ended in Marcos Alonso's volley, which obviously hit into the ground and then wide. That was a very good pass by Rudiger. And he had a few, but then he also had a few switch long balls that he put way out of play. I would probably give him a 5.5 as well. Then if we gave Aspie the 5.5, I would see why you'd push a 6 maybe, but I think they were very even, all things considered. What do you make of that, Pies?
Yeah, I mean, if we gave Aspie a 5.5, then probably Rudiger should be the same. I think they were pretty much on the same level today. Yeah, it was just Zouma, the one that let us down in the middle, man. It was just really bad from him. So, yeah, for Rudiger, I'm happy for 5 or 5.5, depending on what you two want to do.
All right, Jay?
Yeah, I think that's fair, to be honest. He definitely wasn't the worst at the back. It's very Rudiger to misplace certain passes and to be quite erratic. So, you become used to it. But yeah, I think there's no way he deserves to be like a Zouma rating of a 3, because Zouma was directly at fault for the goal, and there's it's also not fair for him to be rated anywhere like above Aspie, because they pretty much were exactly the same in terms of quality on the pitch today. So yeah, 5.5 is cool with me, man.
All right, I'll go for the 5.5 then, just because I do also think Aspie in combination with Reece, of course you touched on the Reece James back passing issues, but still I thought in the sense of like Aspie was perfectly press resistant today. I don't remember a moment where like he got pressed, lost the ball. They always managed to pass their way out. On the left, we struggled a bit more. I will say that's more down to Alonso than Rudiger, but still, that is kind of, I would almost argue even give Aspie more, but hey, I'm fine with the 5.5. And we have a new member. Big up, Caroline. Big up yourself. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the party. That's big from you. And of course, Dave, you are already a mod. Once I make you a mod, once you stay a mod until I remove you as a mod. So don't worry about that. Anyway, continue with the team. Did I already give him the rating? Yes, I did. We usually, last time round, we went for the midfielders first, as our wing-backs play actually higher up the pitch than the two centre-mids. So I will go for Mateo Kovacic first, who today, and that is part of my issue with the whole lineup, was the deep out of our two midfielders when he was so influential in anything we did going forward. Yes, I know he didn't get assists and goals, but he was still so influential in anything positive we did going forward in the last few games. And I would bring Kante in, and allowed Kante to be the guy that roams and is aggressive, but told Kovacic to sit, and that meant Kovacic wasn't as good. So to me, it's like, yes, Kovacic wasn't as good as he was recently, but that's not due to his fault. That's due to instructions he was given that he has to sit, which hampers his abilities. So difficult for me to rate, but again, that was something I will touch on when we get to Thomas Tuchel at the end. But what would you rate Mateo Kovacic? Let me go with you first, Jay, this time.
4. I thought he was actually really poor today. I actually wasn't impressed whatsoever, and I'm a big fan of Kovacic generally. I think he gets a bit too much disrespect, on social media. He's generally got an awful lot to offer a team, and on his day as a world-class footballer, I thought today he was poor, really poor, and criticism, is totally fair and it's warranted. I understand what you're saying, that he's been played in the wrong position, but that wasn't said with Zouma, who we all know is weak in a back three. So there might have to be some consistency there, perhaps. I didn't really see him influencing the game too much. Obviously, you expect to see him make these mazy runs or do this and that. Obviously, and in the first 20-25 minutes, I thought the whole team looked really quite decent. There was a nice pace to the game, nice flow. But the frustrating thing with Kovacic is that when he's not, he rarely directly contributes to goals and assists. So you expect him to do the work in the midfield, the sort of artistry in the midfield, and today I felt as though he didn't really do too well or really create too much, or I thought he struggled a bit, if I'm honest. And I think you're right, it's partly to do with the position he was played in and the role he was given. But I wasn't particularly impressed whatsoever. But you boys might disagree.
Yeah, I mean, you're not totally wrong. I do think kind of what Dave said here. Obviously, we did get the penalty, so we can't be like too much going at the ref, as much as it was a clear pen, right? But still, Kovacic, part of the thing why I think people say he was bad, he was also like fouled about 15 times and got about 3 free kicks for it, which obviously makes him look worse than he actually was, in my opinion. I'm not saying he was great by any means, but I don't think he was like poor, in my opinion. So I would push for a 5, personally. I would argue maybe in terms of counter-pressing, and he did well in that occasion, and in terms of being the main reason, in my opinion, why we were as press-resistant for the most part as we were, maybe even a 6, because I feel like he should probably be higher than the two defenders, because the counter-press was the reason why we didn't concede more, and the defenders don't really counter-press, but the midfielders do, hence why that pushes up his rating for me, even though he did obviously a few things wrong, if that makes sense. Jesters, we'll have some disagreement happening here today, I'm telling you guys. But yeah, what would you say, Pice? What would you give Kovacic today?
Well, I just want to say the ball didn't bloody go forward until we got it to Kovacic. I mean, he was the only one trying to bloody play the ball forward, which was very annoying. Yeah, it's hard for me because I agree with you, Laurenz, in the sense that, I mean, we literally said this last stream, I think. I said about Kante and Kovacic. We don't like that pivot because what we like in that pivot, if we do like anything of it, is that Kante sits. But they don't do that. They're both roamers. They both roam around. And eventually, when you're in the game, you have to come to a compromise. And obviously, the compromise was today between them two, that Kovacic was the one that's going to play deeper. And I don't like that, honestly. I think if you are going to play that pivot, Kante's got to be the one that sits. He can't be roaming about. He has to be disciplined enough to sit. I know he can do it, but I don't know whether it's a tactical thing or if it's something that they've decided between themselves. I'm not sure. I mean, I've heard Mason Mount say before that him and Kovacic have decided in game what they're going to do between themselves. So I can't pinpoint it to the manager or if it's the players or what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's just so annoying for me because I see when Kovacic and Jorginho play, they have so much of the ball and everything just looks so fluid and quick and snappy. But when him and Kante play, it's just, I don't know, man. There's just something about it. I don't like the vibe from it, honestly. So I think it's a bit harsh to give Kovacic a 4. I mean, as I said, we couldn't move the ball forward until he touched it. So, I mean, I would give him probably a 5, an average rating of a 5, just because, you know, obviously he did suffer a bit, in my opinion, from Kante being his partner, but that's with an asterisk of Kante being his partner because I don't like that pivot. And this is one of the reasons why I want a proper DM in the summer. Someone who can sit, but is also really, really good on the ball and knows how to play the ball forward, but is actually like superb defensively and will just sit there so Kovacic can roam. Because personally, I've said this before, is I don't think we will play a 4-3-3 because Tuchel has said so many times that he likes pivots and he likes 2 double sixes. And yes, he said that Kante can play a lone 6, but I mean, we've all seen how that goes. When you play Kante as a lone 6, it doesn't work, man. It's shocking. He just gets dragged around, man. No, I don't like Kante lone 6. So I'd be very surprised if we did play 4-3-3 next season. I think probably what's more likely is one of the 3 at the back formations and then probably a 4-2-3-1 or something like that. So I think we do need to get a new DM in the summer, but that's for a whole different conversation. But in terms of today, going back to the rating, I'd probably say a 5 with an asterisk of you know, all those variables that I've just mentioned. Obviously, I don't like Kante. I think he makes Kovacic look so much worse than he actually is.
I agree. Like I said, but obviously Jay said 4, you said 5, I said 5.5 to 6. So I guess we'll overall agree on a 5. Go on. Oh yeah. Okay, I thought you were wanting to say something.
Sorry, lad. Sorry.
Getting N'Golo Kante now, and this is where a lot of us are going to disagree, seemingly, especially me and Jay, because I thought he wasn't very good at all. Yes, he was great for the first half an hour and winning every ball back there was to win. Great. Brilliant. But every pass he had to play, which could have created a chance, he messed up every single time. He had countless amounts of heavy touches. There was this one moment, a lovely forward pass by Kovacic to break the line. Kante gets the ball, instead nearly breaks Djenepo's leg by jumping on it instead of actually controlling the ball properly. There was this one pass very early in the game. Mount was running through the channel on the left, basically through on goal if he finds him with the pass. He chooses to play to Tammy, and that was a bad pass in itself. So you could argue, at least you put Mason in the 1-on-1 chance, could have put us 1-0 up at that point already. And other than that, yeah, he roams around, but then he's always in the final third, and I don't want Kante anywhere near around the final third. He just stands in the way. You see that the others don't want to pass to him. You can see that when he gets the ball, he makes the wrong decision every time. And this is not saying Kante's a bad player, but I don't want him in the final thirds. Like, don't go there. Stay away from there. And hence why I just don't get it. This is my frustrating thing with N'Golo Kante. He's so brilliant, but not in what Chelsea tried to do. It just doesn't work. Yes, against the Liverpool, against Man City, great. But we play those games 4 to 6, 8 times a season. All the other games, I would prefer a Jorginho Kovacic pairing if we have a back 3 behind him. If we have a back 4, it's a different scenario, different conversation. But we did have a back three behind them. I just don't see the point. And the fact that Jorginho came on for Kovacic and not Kante is the most baffling thing I've ever heard when we were chasing a goal. I just can't comprehend that. Can't comprehend that one at all. I know you will disagree, hence why we'll go to you first, Jay. Like I said, brilliant at winning the ball back, particularly in the first half an hour. I think also that phased out as the game went on. Way too many fouls. Like he committed a lot of fouls. I don't know how many it was, but it seemed like a lot to me anyway. And not saying he was dreadful, but on the ball, he was dreadful, in my opinion. But hey, share yours, bro.
No, I hear what you're saying. Like, I totally respect it. I'm able to be critical of my own opinions and the way I form them as well. Like, I think I'm a bit of a sucker when I watch Kante because aesthetically it's really pleasing to watch someone be really busy in midfield and win the ball back. But throughout the stream during the game, like I was saying, and Hajir disagreed with me actually, but I think I'm spot on with it, is that Kante's long passing specifically is really poor, and it's like frustratingly poor. And I think if you're going to play Kante, just give him one job because he's so good at that one job. But when you ask him to be a bit more well-rounded or complete, there's no point. And, you know, I hear what PYS is saying, like getting a sentinel DM to free up Kovacic is a smart idea because, you know, realistically Kovacic is or could be considered more long-term at Chelsea than Kante, even though fans might disagree on that. You know, you should always let Kovacic roam forward and let Kante destroy in the midfield. But Kante, if he's not disciplined enough to stay there, because then again we struggle, and he gets a lot of criticism is if he has to be like a holding midfielder. He's almost sometimes a problem because, you know, he's such a good player, but in the wrong system or in the wrong pairing, it's quite detrimental. And I'm very critical of Jorginho, but you know the Jorginho Kovacic pairing has been really effective recently, and I don't understand why that would be changed. And when you change it, you put Kante and Kovacic in the wrong positions. That to me was bizarre. But as a rating, 6.5 maybe, because I only think maybe Mount gets a higher rating than that anyway.
Okay. Pies, let me go with you. I just want to give that point. Kante, and I understand the thinking in why Kante played higher than Kovacic. As much as I disagree with it, I understand the logic. Because in counter-pressing, Kante is unbelievable. And you'll find very few players in world football that are better at counter-pressing than N'Golo Kante. Just because he's so good at somehow getting his leg in there. Okay, when he's off form, he commits too many fouls, a little bit like the second half today. And that's kind of the issue we had for the last few weeks, or before, obviously, Lampard got released, right? But before that, like that's kind of my issue with Kante. But still, in the counter press, brilliant. The problem is then to counter press, you need to push up the pitch, meaning he is in and around the final third, and then we have the ball in possession trying to score, and then he's in the way. So that's where Kante is just extremely frustrating. But Pies, quickly sum it up and then give me your rating for Kante today.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have kind of pretty much explained everything, really. I do agree with, obviously, Jay saying that, you know, just give him one job, basically. It just seems overcomplicated. It started with Sarri and you know, it's gone from there, really. It's just overcomplicate his game, mate. It's so annoying. Like, and I agree with you, Laurenz. He shouldn't be the one furthest going forward. Whether you agree or not that Kovacic is, you know, not a very good well, he's a good technical player, but obviously he doesn't create many chances and stuff. But the facts are, he's the more flair player out the two of him and Kante. Kovacic's the more flair player. You saw last game when on that Maisie drill when he played that little chip through ball to Werner and nearly scored. Just saying hypothetically, and it's true, you're not going to see Kante do that. So if you're playing both of them, just make Kante sit. Let him do one job, you know, keep him busy in midfield, stop the counter-attacks. He's good at all that. Interceptions, tackles, keep the ball moving, but don't overcomplicate his game. You know, don't make him go and press high up the pitch and then, you know, get isolated on the transitions, because that's what happens a lot with him as well. He's pressing so high. So I don't know what rating to give him, really, because I gave Kovacic a 5 and I also blamed Kante. And so for me, I can't give him I can't give him above a 5 because I said that.
I agree.
I said that he affected Kovacic's game, and I think he didn't. I think he just messed up too many attacks, and it's harsh on him in a way because we shouldn't be saying that about Kante. Oh, Kante messed up too many attacks. Like, that sounds stupid a few years ago. When would you ever be saying that? You should be saying that. Every game was always Kante is doing so good in defence and all this. It was never about attacking. It was never about high pressing and winning balls up high up the pitch and all that. So I kind of feel sorry for him in a way, but it is what it is. And I don't know, man. I don't know what his future holds, honestly. It's going to be very, very interesting. But Tuchel clearly likes him, obviously. So, again, it's going to be a very, very interesting time for Kante because, obviously, this pivot, it's got to work somehow if he's going to play them both. But then again, you've got Jorginho who's playing so well with Kovacic. So what do? Do you just balance the minutes out? I don't know. He's got to find a solution, but yeah, for me, I'm going to go with a 4.5 for Kante.
Okay, for me, I would probably go 4.5 as well, maybe 5, because I think in the defensive play, in the pressing play, in the tackling, I would give him an 8 or a 9, and in on the ball play, I would give him a 2 or a 3, and that kind of evens itself out around there. But because obviously Jay pushed for even a 6.5, I think we have to just push our rating a bit higher, Pi. So
do what you want, mate. Do what
no.
If you boys want to call it 5.5, I'm all right. Like, I'm not going to die on that hill. I just thought that when I was watching the game, it gives me more pleasure to watch him than most of the other players today on the pitch.
That is fair. Now, but we're set here as a 3, so we'll try to find a fair rating that all of us are okay with. So I will put the 5 down now, just because it's kind of what me and Pi said, plus pushing it a bit higher because of what you said in a way. And I guess next we should probably talk about Reece James. Again, in my opinion, people are a slight bit overcritical of him. People are always saying, he passes back too much. I'm like, yeah, maybe he does every now and again. First of all, I thought he did that less today. He tried a few of those around the corner passes or around the wide centre-back passes to Timo Werner, to Tammy Abraham. Tried that a bit more than he did recently. So I was, if anything, happy about that. Didn't always play them perfectly, but hey, that happens. Like those did more difficult passes than a quick short pass or a player pass to a player that's completely, like a switch ball to Alonso. That's easier if you're a good footballer because he's unmarked. So you don't really have to worry about where the opponent's going to run. You just have to put it where Alonso is, or obviously vice versa to the other wing back, right? I thought Reece was decent. I would give him, along the lines of Aspie and Riddick, I would give him a 5.5 because he certainly could have done things better, especially obviously the last goal. He had that winner on his foot and should have done better with it. I'm not sure whether he had the time to control it because I think by then the Southampton player probably would have got there to block a shot. He just should have, kept the shot down more. But then again, try a half volley yourself and then tell me, you should have done better, because probably the most difficult thing you can do with the football, quite frankly. But still, we rate him as highly as we do. So I do also expect better from him in that situation. So I would push for a 5.5. It's weird in a way for me to give him a higher rating than Kovacic, but if I gave Aspie and Riddick a 5.5, I can't give Reece anything lower than that. Well, what do you make of that, Pison? Like I put in a private chat, if you need to leave in 8 minutes, you need to keep your answers a bit shorter so we can get through a few things.
Yeah, I can give you multiple ones if you want, but in terms of James, I mean, I think people are being a little bit overcritical. I think, as you said, like everyone's got so used to Hudson-Odoi at wing back now because he's naturally a winger, so he's been so attacking, taking people on and putting balls into the box and shooting and things and being really creative. So when James plays there, everyone sort of expects the same, but obviously he's the defender, so he's not the same player. He's not going to be naturally as attacking as Hudson-Odoi or as good at that. So obviously I do prefer him at right back, but I think people are being a little bit overcritical. But today, I mean, he was okay. He was all right. I think he should have done better with the volley, as I said before earlier. But I'm happy to go with a 5.5. I think just based on the other sort of defenders / wing back ratings.
Okay, Jay, what are you saying?
Yeah, I'll keep it concise. Yeah, I totally agree with 5.5. That's all right. If you had said 6, then okay, because he's adapting to a new position, and that's not always easy, I guess. But 5.5 is fair enough if the other defenders have got it. The only criticism I can have, the volley, because if you actually look at his body positioning, he's kind of angular like that. So he's slightly leaning back, which even if you don't play football regularly, you know is bad technique for a volley or a striker anyway. You're meant to sort of be over the ball. He is actually a decent shooter as well. So I think he can come in for criticism because I actually rate Reece's shooting generally. He doesn't score loads of goals, but I think he's got decent technique more often than not.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I mean, it's different to normal shooting, isn't it? When you take a ball in the half volley, it's not like it's bread and butter to take half volleys.
No, totally agreed. But the technique was poor, regardless. Like he is a pro football player playing for a top team. At least, you know, sometimes and mistakes happen, and maybe we are being too critical of him. But I believe that he has the capabilities to get it on target, which is why sometimes there's frustration when it doesn't happen, but that happens to every player. And then, just a few times in the game, he's a little hesitant when he could play maybe a dynamic pass or a more creative pass. And you see him stutter sometimes, and there's a few passes that weren't too well weighted. But I thought he was active, strong. He's at least got a bit of presence on the pitch, which most of the players don't have. So, 5.5 is cool with me, man.
To be honest, I even pushed it up to a 6 now because after what you said almost in the intro, I thought you were gonna go more to like the 4.5 areas, which is kind of why I lowered my rating. So I'm like, because I would actually think he deserves a 6. And I do get what you're saying with the passing, but it's also a case of a lot of our players lose the ball too many times. So I'm not upset by Reece James making sure we keep the ball sometimes. You know, maybe sometimes a little bit too much, but I do see other players that try risky pass and the wrong choice of rubbish. Just read the word rubbish. The wrong choice of pass in the wrong moments and in the wrong, like just too often.
There's definitely something to be said for, you know, the intelligence of just keeping the ball and being able to move the ball around effectively and safely, because it's a really, you know, that's why Jorginho is actually an effective player and why people like him, is because he's really good at just retaining the ball and putting it in the right place more often than not. You know, there's plenty of criticisms I can throw at him, but that's one of his really, you know, good strengths. With Reece, it was just a couple of times I felt that some players made decent runs and he just chose to be a bit safe. And, you know, maybe I sounded too harsh in the intro because, like I said, similar with the volley, I believe in Reece's ability so much, and I think he's got such potential that I believe he has the capability to play those risky passes and reap the rewards of them sometimes. But I understand that as a young player in a big league, in a big game, when it's not going your way, then you might not do that. So I'm willing to not really go too hard on Reece because I like him so much and I don't think he deserves it.
Fair. And because Pies needs to leave very, very soon, obviously Jay and I, and then Whitmer should be coming on as well if he's still available then. But let me just let Pies run through the rest of your player ratings quickly before you need to head off, so I get that involved. And when we then make our final ratings, I will note them all down. And then when we get through our final ratings, I will take them into consideration before giving our final rating. So let me I'll just let you run through it quickly. And if you want to add a couple of words to each player and each rating, then just do that.
Yeah, sure. So Alonso is the next one, right? So
yeah,
Alonso. Oh my God, it's just absolutely terrible, man. So bad. I'll give him like a 2. He was so bad. Man, I can go on forever about this guy, but I'm not. He slowed down so many attacks. Honestly, he was just terrible, man. So bad. I hated his performance today. Who's the other players, man? I'm trying to think.
Mason Mount next year.
Mason Mount was very, very good. I could probably give him a 7.5 or 8. Obviously, I'm taking the result into consideration, but he was very, very good on and off the ball. As I said, he was, you know, pretty much our liveliest attacker. Werner's always quick, but Werner wasn't very good today. He was, again, lacking the end product. When he received the ball on a 1v1 down that left side, everyone just knows what he's going to do. He's just going to run in a straight line and cross it. Like, there's no unpredictability about Werner's game. You know, he can't dribble. He can't, you know, do a skill move or anything to get inside and out or something nice. He's not a tricky player.
To me, the weird thing is that he never cuts inside and shoots on his stronger foot. That's so weird to me. He
always goes down the line. He's just so predictable. So Werner I got really annoyed with today. So probably a 4 for Werner. I'll go with an 8 for Mount. And Tammy Abraham is a difficult one because he didn't really get himself in the game. So, like, it's hard to judge him. He didn't really, like, do much. Again, I don't know. Tammy's just a weird one. He just has these games where sometimes he's really good. He get a couple of goals, and everyone's like, "Wow, Tammy's so good." And then, other games he's just absolute ghost, and he's just not there, so he doesn't get himself involved. So it's really difficult. I don't know, man. I'll leave the Tammy rating up to you guys, honestly, because I don't know what to rate him. Like, I'm genuinely confused. I could go with like a 4 or a 5 for an average, but again, that'd be pretty harsh on the other guys who played more and did more. So, I think I'll leave it there. I'll leave you guys to decide and debate over Tammy, because I just don't understand this guy. Like, he's just so inconsistent. Sometimes he's really good and looks really promising, young striker, and then other times just not in the game. Doesn't, as one of the comments says, he's awful for those 45 minutes. Yeah, I agree. It's just inconsistent.
Yeah, fair enough. And then quickly the subs as well. Obviously, Hudson-Odoi was a sub to be brought on and to be brought off. Jay and I will get into that a bit more later.
I don't know why Tuchel had such a problem with him. Was I missing something?
Did you see his comments after the game?
Yeah, he was saying his attitude was bad and something like counter press, and he didn't look on it. I thought he looked on it. I don't know what happened there, honestly. I really hope Hudson-Odoi takes it on the chin and doesn't, kick off and stuff, because otherwise it's going to end really badly. I will say this about Tuchel, man. Tuchel is ruthless. And I've said this to Alex Goldberg just like a little while ago, right? We've got a lot of weak-minded players in our squad. I don't think Hudson-Odoi is one of those, right? But if he does this with certain other players, I know we're only a few games in and stuff, but let it brew over the next few months. We all know what happens at Chelsea. These guys will go straight to the board. These guys will go moaning to their agents. Oh, Tuchel's unfair. Tuchel's too strict. He's too demanding. I've heard it all before, man. I don't want Tuchel to be another guy that's going to get the sack in a year or two just because these players can't hack, criticism. They can't hack being hooked off early, because I can see it going that way very easily. It's happened with other managers as well. So that's just something I want to throw out there. Hopefully it doesn't, happen in the future where these players, go running to the board and go running scared, and another story about players getting their manager sacked. I hope it doesn't go that route, but early signs are that Tuchel is very, very ruthless. He will take people off. He will happily dig them out. And all those things are usually that doesn't go well at Chelsea. So it's a very, really, really big cause for concern if you think about it that way. Let's just take that into account. But Hudson-Odoi, probably go with a 5 or a 6 just because he was on limited time. And who were the other subs again? I've completely forgot. Was there any others?
Ziyech and Jorginho.
Oh, yeah, Jorginho tried a couple over top the balls, didn't really come off, but I liked his enthusiasm when he came on. He was trying to get the ball forward and stuff as he usually does. So probably like a 5.5 again, or a 5, just kind of an average rating for the subs, really. Ziyech, again, probably an average rating of a 5 or a 4.5, just based on the fact he did lose the ball quite a few times. But he had that one run into the box, which some said could have been a penalty for being dragged down. Not too sure about that, but overall, just a very annoying performance. Honestly, just one of those games where you just think, on another day, we'll finish a couple more chances. On another day, we won't mess up with a few of those attacks, So, just very, very annoying for me. But
that's true. But do you want to just give me a quick rating for Tuchel as well, everything considered?
I don't know, man, because I like the fact that he makes subs, but just that Hudson-Odoi one just really annoyed me. I was just confused. I was left confused. Like, you very rarely see a player subbed on and then get subbed off. That's got to be something drastic. So, if you look at the subs he did make, he obviously made Jorginho, made Ziyech, he made Hudson-Odoi. Those are all positive subs, so I can't give him a too harsh a rating because, he did do the right thing. He's trying to win the game, but
Also take the starting 11 into account, though.
Okay, starting 11, yeah. I would have liked to see Christensen, so I'll take that into account. It would be very, very harsh to say I would have liked to see Chilwell over Alonso, because we all agreed before this game that Alonso was a better wing-back. But again, I don't think he played very well today. So I'm going to kind of ignore that one. Obviously, I don't like Kante, Kovacic, but Jorginho can't play every game. And Gilmour didn't look very good against Barnsley. So again, I think that's pretty harsh to say that, you can blame Tuchel for Kante. Kante's got to start some games, right? So And then the front three, I mean, Werner, Tammy, Mount, pretty standard, to be honest. I didn't really expect anything else. I didn't really expect Ziyech to start over Mount. I didn't really expect Ziyech to start over Werner or any of the others. So, to be honest, I don't really have much problem with the lineup. It was more the Hudson-Odoi thing. Looking at in context, obviously we've got a really big game on Tuesday, so needed to rest players for that as well. So, with all things taken into account, I'll probably go with a 6 for Tuchel.
All right, fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, do check out Pys on Twitter. His link is down in the description. Thank you for joining me again. I'm sure he will be back for my player ratings live stream after the Atletico Madrid game on Tuesday. Jay and I will talk.
It's going to be hectic, that. That's going to be a bad one.
It will be. But yeah, bro, thank you for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon, yeah?
Yeah, bro. See you later, Jay, as well. Nice to speak.
See you later, man. Yeah, man.
All right, see you, bro.
Brilliant. So now after, basically having both of us on mute for a minute, let's get back to Marcos Alonso. Obviously, you said you didn't think it was as bad. Pys was saying as much as, give him a 2. I'm not far off where Pys was, quite frankly. The first 15 minutes was good. That to even get in the position and to be found by Reece, and that is a really difficult volley. It's just because of the goals that we've seen Alonso score, we kind of say, "Oh, do better." But actually, to even get there, to even try it, I was happy with that moment. So that was quite good in my opinion. But then there was also just too many moments. His crossing, every time he gets the ball, and I see he's lining up across, I know for a fact it's not going to end up with a teammate. I just know it. When he's lining up that left foot to cross the ball, he either can't get it off the ground or not off the past the first man, or sometimes, not today, but sometimes puts it out for a throw in on the other side. It's just a big mare when Alonso doesn't have a good day. And I will say, fair play to Tuchel, and we will get to that rating later. Alonso was good in the last few games, so I understand playing him. But what I don't understand is leaving him on the pitch and taking Hudson-Odoi off again when I see Alonso play. This I can't get on board with. Absolutely can't get on board with. I think giving him a worse rating than Zouma is maybe a bit harsh because Zouma cost us the 3 points, quite frankly. You could argue maybe Alonso did as well because maybe our attacking play would have been better had he played better. Fair enough. But it's not as obvious as you make one mistake and you bottle it. So I would give him a 3 like Zouma, but I wouldn't be totally against saying 2.5 or something. But I know you're going to go a bit higher than that, aren't you?
Yeah, not much higher. I was thinking then when you were talking and when POS was talking, I seem to have maybe not been quite so clear when I spoke about certain players in the intro. The reason why sometimes Alonso gets away with things is because he's a bit of a wild card player, and you don't always. I think he's a bit unpredictable sometimes, and then painfully predictable other times, which is really bizarre. Because he can, when it works, he's a real threat. Do you know what I mean? He's like the barman in a shootout of a movie. He's there. He seems to be at all the major events, but doesn't always contribute. And the free kick today, I expect a better free kick from him. I thought the free kick was poor. If you're gonna maybe give it Mount, then the crossing was weird. There was a certain point where the ball was heading towards the byline and Alonso's running at it, and then he sort of angles round as though he's going to first time cross, but didn't realise that the angle run that you take to in the final 5 yards just increases the time it takes to get you to the ball, even by a fraction of a second, and then the ball's gone out, and it's what are you doing?
And he almost slowed down as well. I'm what are you doing? You could have so comfortably put that in play. And
do you know what? If I'm gonna criticise Jorginho for this. And I do come across sometimes I'm a real Jorginho hater. I'm not. It's just he frustrates me more than most players. Marcos Alonso is he's got glue on his boots. He's so slow. I said during the stream, is he actually sprinting? I don't know what he's doing. So yeah, it's just frustrating to watch, isn't it? Because when he works, when he is thrown into the mix and it works, he's always involved in something positive. And again, I understand why he was picked because he's had a good few games. But yeah, he had a bit of a stinker today, and I don't know. I wouldn't give him. Oh, maybe I would give him the same as Zouma. Nah, maybe a 4. Maybe a 4. I know it's going to be unpopular though, because I've seen on the timeline people absolutely going at Alonso, but that's Twitter, isn't it?
That is Twitter. That is the YouTube chat comment section. Like you're not totally wrong with that. And someone put in the comments like Reese's crossing wasn't great either, and he missed obviously a big chance. So why was going Reese 6 and Alonso like however low we're doing? It's not just crossing and missing a chance; it's everything else. And there's a reason why all of our build-up plays down the right and never down the left. And the reason is Alonso and Werner. But Alonso, like there's obviously Tuchel plans with that, hence why we do it. It's not just that why you're playing him. Then this is kind of a plan as well. But still, it's like you take that into consideration. Alonso touches the ball about half the amount of time as Reece James does. So, in its importance to the team, that plays a role as well. You said 4 now. Pi said 2. I said 3. So I guess 3 it is then.
Yeah.
And getting to Mason Mount, I'm not quite sure about I go as high as Pi did. I think the overall team performance doesn't quite warrant that. And I do also think Mount in the first half did a fair few things wrong. I didn't think his first half was good. Second half was unbelievable, and the second half was up there like with a 9 rating. If we just give a second half rating, probably I'll go close to 9, right? The first half would probably give him a 5, 6, something like that. Not bad, but not great. And defensively, like off the ball in terms of counter pressing, good. But in terms of decision making, also there was the moment where Kante could have just found him. Mount might have been through and goal. One of them with the keeper might have scored, and also won the penalty. Yes, it was a shocking challenge by Danny Ings, but still. Got in that position. No one else bloody did they now? And he scored the penalty very comfortably. Of course, he took it because Jorginho wasn't on the pitch, but regardless, scored it big. Means at least only 2 points dropped rather than 3 in that, if you think about it that way. So I would push 7.5. I even understand the 8, but I think in the first half there was a few too many things wrong to give him an overall 8 for me.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. Like the reason I would say Mount is an 8, right, is because there are certain things to do with football that don't show up statistically, but are still really important. And one of those things is mentality. And what you see consistently with Mason Mount is that when Chelsea is struggling, he is that one player that is actually, you can see his desperation for this to turn around. You can actually see that in his style of play and his frustration that he shows and his body language and everything like that. I think it's really, I think that wins you a lot of support from the fan base, and that will gradually win people over. And you saw that today. Mason Mount, especially in the second half, you could tell he went into the dressing room frustrated. Like you just know that was what he was doing. Like you know that he's genuinely exercised about the way that people were playing, and he also then tries to positively impact the game and be that guy at the center of things. And the fact that he tries so hard is often levied as a criticism or like a not a worthy, comment to say. But actually, it really does matter. And any football fan will love a player on the pitch that just tries and tries and tries and is effective usually when they do so. And that's why I would bump Mount up slightly, because he was the one in the team that was really trying to get something going. And he does that repeatedly when this team is in those situations. So that's probably why I'd bump him up. In terms of, a more statistical or more objective approach, then I think a 7.5 is probably fair. Fair's on scoring the penalty. I had no issue with him taking the penalty. Maybe he should have been a bit more authoritative taking the free kick, but I understand why Alonso didn't. And yeah, I think 7.5, 8 is totally fine. I just think because of his mentality and the way that he conducts himself, that wins me over personally. I'm able to see a fallacy in my own opinion making there.
No, to be fair, I totally agree with that. And to be honest, in my 7.5, that was kind of included in terms of, because like I said, I think the second half, the first half was probably a 5 for me. And then the second half, the things you said made it up to a 9, right? And then as an average, that gives me like a 7.5, doesn't it? So that's why I went for that in my books. I do want to touch on that for a second as well, because a lot of people were, when, Frank got sacked, and they were like, oh, Mason Mount, poor guy, who sat at home crying because he won't get game time anymore. That's why he plays every game. And second of all, every time he plays, pretty much our best player. Obviously, there was a couple of occasions where Jorginho, Kovacic, Hudson-Odoi were up there, but Mount hasn't had a stinker. First half wasn't good, but Mount has been unbelievable. And it doesn't matter who the manager is, and it doesn't matter what game it is. If there's one guy that's sat there on that pitch trying to drag the entire rest of the team out of the mud on that pitch, it's Mason Mount. I don't see it. There was one moment where Reece James decided, all right, I've had enough. I'm just going to try it all by myself now. And went about past 5 people, pushing all of them away and trying to cross, which didn't come off. So he tried as well. But Mason Mount did that for the entire rest of the second half. Man was dishing out nutmegs left, right, centre, trying to put crosses in, set up Reece for the big chance that he had, which could have been the assist for the winner, right? If you think about it, if Reece takes the chance. And yes, he had some wrong decisions in the final third, and he does. And no one's denying that. And he definitely has to improve on that. And, I'm sure if he played more as a 10 or the kind of roles that he's playing now more this season, he would already be better at it. But instead, he played more of an 8 most of the season, meaning not that high up the pitch as regularly, which, gets a little bit of getting used to as well. And the shooting needs to be better sometimes as well. Didn't even shoot today, but for the last few games. But still, the guy is the only one in that team that tries to drag the rest of the team up. I don't see Aspie doing that. I don't see Rudiger doing that, other than, back in the days when he was shouting at Zouma when actually Rudiger was the guy that made a mistake. I don't see Kovacic, sometimes Jorginho, but I definitely don't see Kante doing that. Reece is a quiet guy. Reece does it by performing, but you could just see Mount just doing it over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter how tired he is, doesn't matter how many knocks he gets. He's having it. Of course, it was also Southampton, and of course, he's born in Portsmouth, so there's a rivalry in that anyway. But still, he's the guy that tries to drag us out. Doesn't matter whether Frank's in charge. Doesn't matter whether we're in a poor run, bad run, good run. Doesn't matter. He's the guy that's trying to drag us out, and people need to give that a little bit more credit than they do, in my opinion. Because, and people have said this here, but he's not. He does that wrong, and his passing is that good, and his shooting isn't that good. Yeah, that's all well and great. But I mean, Barcelona, every player in their team is good at passing. And they still got better. 8-2 in the summer, 4-1 last week. Do you know what I mean? And they're 12, 13 points of Atletico Madrid in the league? Well, Atletico Madrid have loads of Mason Mounts. People that work hard and drag you out of the mud. So it's not just about technical ability. Football is a combination of both. And people that say, oh, Mason Mount isn't good at football. Have you watched the guy play? The only thing, the free kick. It is, I mean, Chelsea players in interviews have all said that Marcos Alonso is probably the best free kick taker. So I'm not sure whether he would have any warranty to take it off Alonso, I guess. And even his free kick to Zouma, if Zouma holds the line, that's actually really good.
It's a good free. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a good ball in. Do you know what the thing is though? I want to talk to someone one time, maybe on a stream, that isn't a Mason Mount's, supporter, because, you touched on it. I actually tweeted when Tuchel joined. I tweeted that maybe just before actually, that no matter who the manager is, Mason Mount's going to play, right? Yeah. And I went to sleep. I woke up and it had 700 retweets and 8,000 likes, and it just blew up my phone. And I had people chatting no, he won't, no, he won't, no, he won't. And I don't really understand why the fan base don't want to support him. And I would genuinely like to try and understand. I'm not going to agree.
Though. I think that's so.
Yeah, of course it is. Me too. And you know what? It's one of those things, and there's it's the fallacies in people's arguments that you'll criticize people that are using mentality as an argument towards why Mason Mount's a good player, but then you also criticize Werner for having a weak mentality. Do you know what I mean? You can pick holes in people's arguments for not being consistent there, and mentality is a massive part of elite sports, and that's how the elite athletes become elite athletes. Because let's be honest, across the range of professional football players, at the top level, the difference in technique is actually not too massive. It's the mentality that pushes you into that top bracket. And Mason Mount, whilst he might not be the most technically gifted, although I'd argue today he showed it, his mentality he's got an elite mentality, and it's exactly what's needed. And I don't think that should be held as a weak positive for anyone. That's something really praiseworthy, and it's rare, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I will get to that comment in just a second, Big Boss. And by the way, to everybody else, first of all, nearly 200 people watching. Pick up yourself. So subscribe if you haven't already. Help me reach 10,000 subscribers as soon as possible. Smash the like button. Let me check how many we have, actually. I will get to that comment by you, Big Boss, in just a second. We're on 69 likes. So smash the like button. Let's get 100 right now. I mean, we're only 31 away, and there's 180 people watching. So make sure you smash the like button. Doesn't cost you any money, barely cost you any time. First of all, there is a huge example, and probably the best example in probably the entirety of football, that talent isn't everything. And that's Frank Lampard. And that doesn't mean he's not talented, but he isn't as talented as a lot of other people are that will never have or didn't have anywhere near the career Frank Lampard did. Frank Lampard just trained hard, had the mentality, was always there on time, worked on himself, and kept getting better and better and better and better. Mason Mount is very similar to that, in my opinion. I'm not sure whether Jay froze. I'm not sure whether I froze. I know you didn't freeze. You just looked down and saw it. It's on a similar scale. Like Mason Mount, yes, he's not as good as Kai Havertz technically as a footballer, even in terms of football brain, anticipation, everything. I agree. Kai Havertz is a far superior player. Kai Havertz is a generational talent. Mason Mount isn't. But that doesn't mean necessarily that Kai Havertz will have a better career than Mason Mount. I hope so, because he's at Chelsea, so I hope they both have amazing careers at Chelsea. But Mason Mount has things that other players don't. And he has things that made someone like Frank Lampard into the greatest midfield goal scorer that England has ever seen, that the world has ever seen. Do you know what I mean? People need to think about that. And I know Frank didn't, and I know Mount isn't scoring quite enough goals, even though he scored today. That was a penalty. First of all, Frank scored enough penalties. And secondly, Frank didn't score these crazy amount of goals at 22. So just because he doesn't do it now, doesn't mean Mount won't in 2026 start scoring 25 goals a season. You're not going to be able to convince me that that's not happening. Do you know what I mean? But anyways, enough about Mason Mount. Let's get to Timo Werner, because he frustrated me as well today, especially the thing that he never goes inside to shoot. But also, tactics by Tuchel, which isn't necessarily Werner's fault. Have Werner stop being out on the wing all the time, especially in the second half when we didn't have a strike in the middle. I didn't get it. What did you make of Werner's performance and the whole tactics or whatever?
It's really tough for me because I try to pride myself on being objective with my football opinions, and I spend a lot of time with Hajir when we stream, and Hajir, he is a reactionary guy and he takes things personally, and he feels that emotion of the sport, which a lot of the fan base do, and I totally get it. For me, I try and take a step back. Otherwise, talking about Chelsea as much as I do would become really a tough job. But I want Werner to succeed massively. I think he will next season if he'll work his way in and find a bit of form and do this and do that. I thought he was busy again in the opening 25. The question I had actually was more, he plays out on the left, right? And it's bizarre because he doesn't cut in on his right. He runs down the channel onto his left. Then he's not confident with his left foot crossing the ball in. I'm a bit perplexed. If his style is to hit the byline, put him on the right, because at least if he's not going to shoot, he's going to be more comfortable putting the ball into the box, because we've seen multiple times this season where he's on the left and he darts to the byline and puts a ball in, and like the previous result when Giroud got the goal, that came from Werner bursting down the wing. Even on the right, if he's not scoring but he's being busy that way, would it be detrimental for him to have a go there? And then at least if he hits the byline, he's more confident playing the ball in, and that would allow Hudson-Odoi a bit more freedom on the left, because he's been outstanding since Tuchel's been here. So that's something to think about perhaps. But today, strange. I think Hasenhüttl was, prepared to isolate Werner and to let him run down the wing, because you'd rather him run down on his left than cutting on his right. But he's struggling, isn't he, man? He's struggling. But yeah, I think a 4, 4.5, 5. I don't know, around that area would do for me.
I would agree on a 4. What did Pi say? Let me check. He said 4 as well. So I think we're going to agree on a 4, because it wasn't dead awful, and his counter pressing and his working hard was good, right? Don't get me wrong, but there were the bad touches again. There were the bad passes again. There were the bad decisions again. And like you said, I don't understand either. And Lewis has been an advocate of that for ages. Play him on the right, because he also shoots with his left from that position sometimes. Like he did one when he hit the outside side netting. If he does it on the right, at least he shoots on his stronger right foot. And sometimes maybe one will, come off and he'll smack it in the roof of the net or the far post, whatever else, or just past the keeper. Like that can come from it. So I would give him, like I said, I would give him the 4 as well. It just wasn't good. And that was exactly what I was worried about. People were saying, when he scored against Morecambe, it was only the FA Cup. He needs to score in the league and then it will click. And I was like, why would that make a difference? It's about him scoring. He scored against Morecambe, didn't change anything. Now he scored against Newcastle, and everyone was like, Werner's back. Well, or not. Or not.
Yeah.
We did have like a 5-minute period, like in the second half, when him and Callum switched sides, but basically a minute after they switched again, and also a minute after that, Callum Hudson-Odoi was taken off again. So that was a bit weird. And to Tammy Abraham, I agree with what Pi said. It's difficult to rate him. I will say this. Anybody, if it's Giroud up top, everyone be sitting here giving him an excuse he didn't get any service. It's Tammy Abraham, so no one's giving him that excuse. Tell me the amount of balls that Tammy received where he actually could have done anything with. None. Not a single one. Yeah, he could have held a couple better up, but I actually thought he had a few that he held up well, chested down well to Mason Mount. And then when he was played a through ball, they were always out to the bloody wing, and Southampton just defended well and always had a guy on him or someone in the middle to like stop a cross from having any point to it either. And someone in the Blues Fans TV review earlier said, this was a perfect game for Giroud. I'm like, first of all, it's the opposite, especially the first half. Just the problem is that we went 1-0 down and then, 1-1 and they were just defending it. So then it became that a little bit more. But even then, none of the crosses were good. So whether it's Giroud or Tammy in the middle, none of them would have gotten the end of any of them anyway. So it wouldn't have made a difference. I don't think we can be too harsh on Tammy. I'm not saying we give him a 7 or an 8 or something like that. But I'm saying it almost has to be a neutral rating in my opinion because he didn't receive any balls that he could have done that much with. And I don't think the balls that he did get, he did that badly with. Like, I'm not saying he was good. He was poor. But that was not just down to him. And the amount of times I see in my chats, someone saying, Werner's made this amount of runs and no one played the balls. And that's why we shouldn't be so harsh on Werner. And that was to some extent the case today as well. But no one ever gives me those excuses for Tammy. And I think that's weird. I mean, Thingy McGee, where is his name? I just saw him in the chat. Where has he gone? Hajir, where you gone? There he is. He's devastated. I'm sure you are, bro. I'm sure you are. But Tammy just waits for the ball. Yeah, but does Giroud do anything else? Have you seen Giroud, other than against Sevilla, do anything other than that and usually hold the ball up worse than Tammy does this season? Again, one comment said here, Tammy wasn't to blame today. Does that mean he was good? No. But does that mean he was shocking and everyone should go crazy at him? No. I will not give him the ankle excuse, though, even though he had an ice pack on it when he came off. If he starts, he's fine. So that's not an excuse.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like, Hajir made a really interesting point, and whilst I wasn't sure I agreed with it, I saw what he was saying. Like, he was saying that maybe Tammy should drop deeper, and then that creates the space for strikers to run into. Now, my counter to that was that's not a skill unique to Tammy. That's what happens when strikers drop back 5 yards as there's more space in behind, which would allow perhaps Werner to get on the end of it. But that's not what Tammy does, and if he does do that, I think the team are perhaps not prepared for it, and Werner's not going to make the runs. But yeah, he's not at fault. It's tough. He doesn't get the service, but then I think he's quite weak aerially. So what kind of service does he get? Like, what's the best service for Tammy Abraham? That for me is a tough question.
Tammy is faster than people give him credit for, playing with through ball. Like the one through ball.
Agreed. That's what I'd do. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
The one through ball that Kante did give him, when I still think he should have picked Mount instead, it was a shocking through ball anyway. So if he plays a better ball to Tammy, it's a much more difficult ball for Kante. That's hence why he should have chosen the Mount one. But Tammy's 1-on-1 with the keeper. And unless he messes up his touch like he did against Newcastle before he should have had the pen and got injured, he scores it. Like I said this before as well. Yes, he messed up the touch against Newcastle, but if he doesn't and he's in front of the keeper, he scores it, I guarantee it. He doesn't put it wide. He doesn't hit the keeper. He might touch the keeper, but he somehow always gets it on the underside of the arm or the underside of the leg, and somehow it squeezes in anyway. Even if it bubbles in, Tammy don't miss those. He doesn't. Giroud does, Tammy does, everyone else does. Tammy don't. They all the others have other positives, and people be telling me Tammy isn't good enough. But by that logic, none of our attackers are, because the second half was equally as bad as the first half. So you can't say that. And also, Tammy is the highest goal scorer this season in all competitions and in the league. So if he's not good enough, then the others are even worse.
And he also got 16 non-penalty goals last season. What is it? It's 42 goals and assists in 50 games. Like, that is actually ridiculous.
It is.
And that is actually crazy.
I think 27 of those were in the Premier League or Champions League. So it's not like crazy amounts were in the Cup either.
So, he's going to be one of those players that if you back stats, but then choose not to back Tammy, then that's a strange thing to be doing. If you're completely doing it off of optics, I can understand, because aesthetically, Tammy's a really odd player to watch. Like,
he looks like a deer on ice.
He's really strange, isn't he, to observe playing? But his statistics actually bear out quite well. So you have to balance those two things out sometimes, and formulate your own opinions, and you can believe what you want. Personally, I think Tammy's good enough to be a top 4 striker. You don't get 16 non-penalty goals in the league season. That doesn't come around too often. His goals per minutes played ratio this season is give or take the exact same as Calvert-Lewin's. So that's something to think about in terms of goal contributions. But today, he got a bit lost. I think I can see it happening against teams like Brighton as well, is that when Tammy has to deal with big defenders like, Vestergaard and Salisu and Bednarek to some extent, he can be a bit out-muscled because he's not that physical. I think he plays like a player that's 5'9", but he's 6'3". So maybe a nice through ball into him would be the more intelligent way to go. I don't think knocking the ball into him is. So would you keep Tammy, not bringing Haaland? Well, I'd obviously bring in Haaland. That's a silly question.
Yeah, because that's not what we're saying. Just because we're saying Tammy isn't as bad as some people say, doesn't mean we don't want Haaland. Like, those are two completely different statements to make that are completely separate from each other. Do I think that Tammy should be our starting striker for the next decade? No, I don't. But that doesn't mean he's a bad striker, because I think he's closer to that than Olivier Giroud. Olivier Giroud is also 34. But, even if Oli was younger, I would pick Tammy over him long term. Maybe it's a bit difficult because then I could have the argument, but Giroud might get better as well and Tammy might get better. Then it's a different question. But I never like slow players, especially as a striker. Hence why I don't like Giroud. It doesn't mean like as a player, not him personally, but I don't like slow strikers. I just don't. It's as simple as that. People need to accept that I don't. End of story. Well, you're not going to change it. Like, I'm not going to change that opinion. But obviously we want Haaland. Like, obviously we do, right? Do you know what I mean? Anyway. Continue on. That was what will we give him anyway? Will we give him a 4.5, 5?
I think 5 probably. Like, just it is what it is. One of those things. I think 4.5 would make it seem like he made the odd mistake. I don't think he made mistakes. I just don't think he really put his foot down on the game. So
yeah, I mean,
Shearer was kind of slow. Like, when I see comments like that, it's bizarre because, like, what a weird comparison to make. Like, one, Shearer wasn't actually that slow, and two, he's just like.
I think Fahim is basing that off his FIFA stats.
Yeah, for sure. Like, he's got like.
Because I mean, I don't know how old you are, Fahim, but I didn't watch Alan Shearer. I couldn't tell you whether he was slow or quick or not. No.
See, I don't know how old you are, Laurenz, but like, I'm 23. Like, I remember the back end of Shearer's career because obviously you like watching Match Today.
I'm old enough, but we couldn't watch Premier League in Austria back then.
Yeah, like I fully remember watching, like, seeing what Shearer played, and Shearer was, one, very fast. Two, like, his finishing was like Haaland's finishing. Like, everything he hit goes in. Like, you don't score 260 Premier League goals.
Shearer's the best finisher in the Premier League ever. Like, give him some credit.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a weird comparison. Like,
yeah, because Giroud definitely isn't. I know he's your average, but he definitely isn't the best finisher in the Premier League ever. Like, do you know what I mean? And also, times change. Like, Maradona, with the way that and with the shape he was in, the guy would have been dead after 10 minutes in a game against Southampton. So, it don't work like that. You can't compare eras out of nowhere. It don't work like that. It absolutely doesn't. But hey, that's Tammy. I guess next we go to Hudson-Odoi, who Pais would have given a 5 to 6. I disagree. Would I have taken him off? No. But he was poor. Especially the one moment, I can't remember who played him through. There was the obvious first or second touch cut back to Mason, who was in a really good position to score.
Yeah.
And Callum didn't. And he waited and tried to cross it to Werner when there were 3 people between them. I'm like, that is the moment. You said 2 days ago you want to get an assist or a goal every game. Well, then that's the pass you need to make, bro. Like, you absolutely have to. You absolutely have to. And did I maybe a little bit see the lack of counter press? Maybe. Not really as much as Tuchel did. But then tell him to fix up and take Alonso off. Don't take Hudson-Odoi off again. If you have 5 subs, maybe take him off again. Fair enough. If you don't like what he's doing. But when other people on the pitch are so much worse than him, don't take him off. Because it ruins his confidence. It makes the media talk. It makes the fans talk. It's not what we need at Chelsea right now. It's the last thing we need. You need to be a bit smart as well. And clearly it didn't help the result anyway. So what was the point?
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken him off. I've always, as you know, mate, I've always been sort of on the critical side of Hudson-Odoi because of his supposed talent level. Like, I regularly get told by Hajir and by others that he's got, more potential than Sancho, that he's going to be better than Sterling, and I currently don't see it. I believe that he's going to be an outstanding player. But when I hear comparisons like that, I think, that maybe there's a bit of disrespect shown to the peak that Sancho got and the peak that Sterling reached.
Just to quickly interject, the Sancho one is a tricky one because He's done it in the Bundesliga. Werner did that. And we saw how that's gone so far. Obviously, Werner might rectify that, but I think you can't yet. Like Sancho has done that for 2 years as well. We don't know how long Sancho will do this for. And Sancho has had a poor season so far. Good since the turn of the year, mind you. But before that, he's had a poor season. And like Hudson-Odoi might, in 2 years, might start having 5 years in a row with 15 assists and 20 goals. We don't know that yet.
Yeah, we hope so. We hope so. That's the thing. Like, I've always wanted to not be proved wrong. So it's not like I don't believe in him. I just want to see that next gear, that extra thing. Like, with Sancho, I don't really rate the whole he's done it in the Bundesliga criticism. I think if that's like, I'm not saying that's come from you, but I see it generally. But then it's like, if you see that, then, Haaland does play in the Bundesliga as well. Admittedly, his Champions League record's a joke, but he did score. He scored 4 goals in certain games and done this, done that. But the Bundesliga is not weak. I
think Haaland will score less when he comes here, though.
Yeah, me too. So
no matter the team,
it's an interesting one. Hudson-Odoi, I'm still not quite sure what his main role is in terms of what his outstanding abilities are. Because it's like Hazard, right? I remember watching interviews of Hazard where he would say, I'm not actually a goal scorer. People think I'm a goal scorer. That's not my desire when I'm on the pitch. My number one thing is not to score goals. He said that repeatedly. It's like Fabregas. Fabregas would say, I'm here to assist. Like, people have certain strengths. Hazard said, I like to dribble. I like to create. I like to, be providing, goals and assists. And with Hudson-Odoi, it's like, I don't know if people think he's a guy that's going to be a goal machine or whether he's going to be an assist machine or which one is he going to be. And I'm struggling to see that.
It depends.
Naturally, I lean towards assists. Yeah, of course. But
if manager's playing on the left, he's going to be a goal machine. If manager's playing on the right, he's going to be an assist machine. As long as he has a striker to convert his chances. Because you could argue that since Tuchel has turned up, Hudson-Odoi could have 10 assists if there was ever anyone at the far post. If Werner just knew that, just go there and you'll get goals. If Werner just understood that, which is a very simple thing to understand in my opinion, he would probably have 5 goals since Tuchel has arrived, and Hudson-Odoi would have 5, 6, 7 assists. And that's kind of the problem as an assist maker. If Fabregas played with our current front three, he wouldn't have as many assists as he does. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I do know what you mean, but I think if Fabregas is in this team, he's getting loads of assists regardless. I see someone in there saying if chosen the Bundesliga, he gets nominated for the Ballon d'Or. I don't think that's the case either. But I really, really want him to kick on. And under Tuchel, it actually looks like now he will be able to. And he's obviously had to deal with sort of being a celebrity and big injuries and everything else in the media at such a young age. It's not easy. I'm just happy to see him focusing on his football. And I think today him being taken off was a bit of a shambles. I think this is the first thing that Tuchel's done that's going to clash with the culture of the club. As in, Chelsea fans are very protective over their own youth players, apart from Mason Mount. Some of the fans anyway. So, that's going to be seen by fans as... Yeah, and Tammy. That's going to be seen by fans as very much an unpopular thing to do. I tweeted, I thought perhaps this is going to be a tactical switch because, seeing something that's not working. But Werner, there's no way Werner stays on that pitch if Hudson-Odoi has to come off.
Or just
take
Alonso
Werner off. But
take Alonso off. End of discussion. Change to back 4.
Yeah, exactly. But if you are going to take one of the attackers off, take Werner off because he was struggling. Do you know what I mean? And put Hudson-Odoi there because everyone says he's better on the left and he's really effective there. So, just do that. It's not fair in terms of a rating.
Only be able to give it. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, in terms of a rating, I think he deserves a 4 or 5 because he didn't really get a chance to do too much. He only played like 17 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever it was.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, so did Ziyech and Jorginho. But Callum, I think we will only be able to judge how this went. Does he start against Atletico? If he does, today won't matter that he took him back off. If he now doesn't start for the next 4 games, it's a dodgy one. And it makes you think that Callum probably didn't take it well. And it is also down to Callum. You need to deal with things that are put in your way sometimes in a professional career, like Frank Lampard when he had the consistent slandering from West Ham fans, he kicked on from that. and builds a career. Obviously at a different club, but regardless, right? So sometimes things aren't always rosy, and you need to deal with it as a footballer. You absolutely have to, especially when you believe in yourself as much as he does. So I don't think it will like ruin his career, even under Tuchel. Like the way Tuchel spoke about it, he didn't like it, but he said, you know, tomorrow this doesn't matter anymore. Train hard, and you might start against Atletico, basically. So I think that will be a big impact. But in terms of rating, because I do want to not wrap this up necessarily, but hurry up a little bit because we do still have a couple of things to talk about. I would say a 4.5. I think 4 is a bit harsh. I would say 4.5 because I don't think he had quite enough time on the pitch to be given as low as a 4, in my opinion. But then we get to Ziyech and Jorginho, which probably are quite quick. I mean, Jorginho, like I don't agree with Pi saying give him a 5 maybe a 5, but not a 5.5 because yes, he tried the forward passes, but half of them were too long. So that wasn't great. But again, that was a Tuchel one, and that will affect my Tuchel rating because why did you bring on Jorginho for Kovacic? Like, we know that they together work well. We know that Kante didn't help us in our forward play today. So why would you bring on Jorginho for Kovacic? Unless Kovacic was carrying a knock, which we don't know. But if he wasn't, and he didn't look like it, it didn't make sense to me. Yes, maybe Atletico in mind a little bit, fair enough. But it just didn't make any sense, in my opinion, to do that sub. And that didn't help Jorginho either because that meant he is the creator now. Because, I mean, Kante ain't going to be it. And Jorginho is the guy that controls things and, you know, spreads things out. And that's what Jorginho is good at, and that's what he does. And, yeah, maybe it's a little bit like Kante that he is very good at one thing, maybe 2 things, and not so good at the other things. That might be true. Just things that are more suited to how we like to play football than the things that Kante is very good at, in my opinion. In terms of rating today, I'm going to just give him an average 5. A couple of good things, a couple of bad things. I think I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, Tuchel, yeah?
No, Jorginho.
Oh, Jorginho, sorry. Yeah, I mean, he didn't really get the chance. I am critical of Jorginho often, but today I don't really think he warrants any criticism. So a 5 is totally justified. And I took so much heat recently by saying Verratti's everything that Jorginho is advertised to be. You know, I still think that's the case, but in fairness to Jorginho, has been brilliant recently. So, you know, I don't think he warrants any criticism for today because he didn't really get the chance.
See, that's interesting. I think we talked about this before. I think Verratti is Kovacic, not Jorginho.
I think he's both. I think he's both. But like, I guess it's hard on Twitter to completely word yourself, and that's the beauty of having a YouTube channel and the time to speak on things in time. But what I meant by it was that my biggest frustration with Jorginho isn't the typical one that, you know, like Mediano has, and you know, big up Mediano if you don't follow him, like, he's a good guy. But like, it's not his pace and it's not his physicality. It's the fact that I know full well that Jorginho has the ability to play expansive, creative passes, risky passes. That, you know, I know he has that ability because you've seen him do it before, and I just get frustrated with him because I would like to see it more. But in my head, all I think he thinks about is his pass accuracy. And I know he's metronomic and I know what his job is. I'm not a fool. I fully know what he's meant to do. It's my own personal preference and, you know, stylistic ideals of football that with a player like Jorginho, he is an outstanding passer. So I want him to play those balls. You remember Watford last season, that goal, that pass to Tammy? He could do that week in, week out. He can play those first-time passes. He's got exceptional vision and knowledge on the pitch, and I don't think he uses it enough. Whereas I think Verratti,
I agree with that.
I think Verratti does have that.
But Verratti,
I understand. Yeah, of course. I think he's a mixture of the.
Often, every now and again, he has to, but that's not what he's meant to. And what he's mainly good at, in my opinion. Hence why I compare him more to Kovacic. But let's not get too hung up on that. Let's talk about Hakim Ziyech. Obviously, lost the ball on a number of occasions. Failed to impress again, quite frankly. Already was dreadful against Barnsley. Came on today to help us break a low block down, which we couldn't until that point, which is the main reason he was signed. You know, unlock a defence. Didn't do that. Lost the ball instead. Not good. Not good. And, you know, it's different when you come on as the Jorginho in this situation. And the role of that you have to play when it's 1-1 and you come on in the 76th minute to what role you have when you're Hakim Ziyech and come on in the 76th minute. It's not the same. And Ziyech didn't do well at it. And for Ziyech, I would go anywhere between 3.5 and 4. I wouldn't go any higher than that because, yeah, I know he wasn't on the pitch long, but he was brought on to break them down and unlock them. And he didn't do that. If anything, he helped them counter-attack us more because he lost the ball all the time.
No, completely agree. His attitude stinks as well sometimes. It really frustrates me. And it's like, the thing is with him is he wears his attitude on. Do you know what I mean? Like, certain players can not show how they feel. And Ziyech is very physically expressive, and his face is very emotive, which can rub people up the wrong way. And sometimes that does it to me. I can't lie. But, you know, maybe that's not so objective a criticism. He was poor. And that's a frustrating thing. I defended him on the stream because Gia and Jan were not very pleased with me either. And I said, well, he's not playing regularly. And
that is true, yeah, for sure.
And against a team like Southampton, it's a really foolish thing to do, to throw Ziyech right in the middle of a very busy and determined Southampton team that are very athletic, very combative, and you know, are willing to put in the hard work. Ziyech perhaps doesn't work too well there. And you know, we saw it with what's happened to Ozil, and a lot of last season there was this narrative being spun in across a range of different media outlets, the sort of death of the 10 in the Premier League, that now there's like hybrid 10 strikers, hybrid 6-8s, and the beautiful 10 is lost. And I think that coincided with what happened with Ozil. Like, I'm actually a big fan of Ozil, genuinely, but his ability to influence games began to decrease. And you know, Ziyech's always going to stand out with key passes because that is his bread and butter. But, you know, sometimes it's going to be really hard for him to adapt because he needs a bit of time and space. And no disrespect to the Eredivisie, but when you're playing for Ajax and you're playing against Venlo, you're going to have more time than when you're playing against Southampton when they're at home and they need that win. It's a different ball game.
That's what frustrated me with the excuse that people gave him against Barnsley, saying like, oh, this is not the type of game, you know, he didn't feel up for that. Like, it's like Barnsley. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, bro, he was in the Eredivisie. Half the teams are worse than Barnsley.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, don't give me that one. Like, that's what he played for 6 years. Like, that kind of football.
Yeah.
Or more than
Den
that.
Haag are not much better than Barnsley. I don't think they are better than Barnsley. So, like, he should be doing what he does. Do you know what I mean? But then again, maybe it's a positional thing. I don't like the fact that he's a right winger. I always believe he should be a 10 if he's going to play.
He didn't play as a right winger, did he?
No, but he's always advertised, he's going to come in on the right. He's going to come in on the right. Like, more generally, maybe not this game, but I think personally he always should be playing in the 10, and he hasn't been. He's been sort of moved around in that area, in that sort of top right-hand quarter of the pitch, if we break it down that way. And I personally believe he's a better 10, but obviously with Mount and Kai, he's not maybe going to get those opportunities. So it's a tough one for Tuchel to work out where to go next to him.
It is weird because at Ajax he did float between the 10 and the right side. So it is somebody's preferred position. And someone said earlier he can't operate in the half space, but then he needs to bloody learn because like, can't do
Welcome
that.
to the Premier League, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the only place where you're going to find any space, anything to do, because he doesn't have the pace to be a right winger in the Tuchel system, a proper winger if we played a 4-3-3. And the closest thing to his position is probably that right inside forward, right number 10. Like, and that's what he played when he came on. So a bit of a weird one. I mean, you could argue maybe it was a bit of a strange position today because kind of when Callum came on, we changed to a 3-4-1-2 rather than a 2-1 with Werner and Callum as kind of left and right strike and Mount as a false 9-10 mix between. And when Ziyech come on, that changed a little bit again. But to say wrong position is the only reason here, I don't agree. And I'm not sat here saying, no, just let me finish that quickly. I don't think Ziyech, I'm not saying Ziyech is like bad overall and won't ever come good, but I'm just judging today's performance. It was dreadful. But what was you going to say?
No, I was just going to say quickly, like hypothetically, you know how I said that maybe Werner would be effective on the right, and I know you said Lewis has said the same thing. Would you back maybe putting Ziyech on the left just to allow him to spray the balls cross field, because you know what he's going to do on the right, he's going to cut in and play, whereas on the left perhaps he might have a greater scope and a bit more of a chance to direct play from back there. Do you see that working or not at all?
It's a difficult question, really, because we don't. If we had a Haaland, yes, but we don't. So no, like if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Doing that all the time, but there's no one there to score them. Tammy every now and again, right? But not all the time, and also he doesn't play all the time. So I don't know. Ziyech is a frustrating one because his strongest point is that whipped, in swinging cross ball to the far post. And sadly, other than those 5 games in our good run in autumn, we haven't made use of that. But, ladies and gentlemen, like Melinda said in the chat, let's get 100 likes. We're very close to that. We're going to round it off in just a minute. Just going to talk about Thomas Tuchel in just a second. But we're only 8 likes away from 100 likes. So make sure you smash the like button. It helps me push these videos out to more people. And be sure to subscribe. And, of course, check out the Chelsea Social and Jay on Twitter. But, yeah, let's get to what did we rate Ziyech then? What would you give him?
4. 3.5, 4.
Well, I don't know which one to go for. If we have Callum a 4.5, I think we. Actually.
I thought Callum was better.
I do think he was worse than Werner, so I'm giving him a 3.5. For that reason. And now to Thomas Tuchel, because I have a few problems with Thomas today. This isn't saying I'm on Thomas Tuchel's sack. This isn't saying, Thomas Tuchel is awful. No. But he got it wrong today. He got it wrong in terms of starting Zouma. Dreadful decision, in my opinion. How have you come up with that idea? Don't understand. I mean, any idiot could have told you Zouma is not a central defender in the back 3. You can play him on the left or the right if you really need to, but don't play him in the middle. Like, that's just stupid. I'm sorry. That's dumb. But in my opinion, I've said this before, playing Kovacic and Kante together is dumb as well. This game required Jorginho and Kante. Against Jorginho and Kovacic. Against Atletico, play Kante all you want. Against Liverpool, Man United, play Kante all you want. I get it. But not against Southampton. Now, that's the worst game to play Kante in my opinion. Like, honestly, up there with the last game I want Kante to be featuring in, quite frankly. And it's a little bit like Barnsley. Like, Kovacic had to do all of the getting out of the press, all of it. Kovacic had to do all of it. Obviously, I know Kante won the ball back, God knows how many times, 23, someone said in the chat earlier, Mount won it back 21 times. Brilliant. Great. But it's kind of pointless if you then lose the ball after you won it back. It doesn't really help much. You might as well not win it back if you're going to lose it again. Like, it's a bit silly, like, do you know what I mean? And I have that big issue with Thomas Tuchel, the Zouma one, the Kante one. And not starting Callum, I didn't understand. Obviously, he brought him on and took him off again. So maybe he would have a different opinion on that. But why against Southampton? Why is Reece James playing? Not that I have an issue with Reece James playing, but it's not the game where I need Reece James right wing back. Absolutely not. Like, I don't get it. And then you're sat on the sideline moaning, saying, make diagonal runs and do this and do that. Well, then play players that do that. Don't play Mason Mount, who has the right number 10, won't make the diagonal run, but will drop deep because someone has to do something because the other guy in that position was Kante, so someone has to. Don't play Alonso, who's the slowest player you've ever seen in your life. And don't play Timo Werner, who only goes down to the byline. And if you're going to take people off, don't take Callum Hudson-Odoi off, who you just brought on and ruin his confidence, possibly. But take one of the other players off that until that point had 76 minutes and was awful for all 76 of those. Like, I was very, very annoyed at a lot of things Thomas Tuchel did today. And, excuse me, I touched on it already. Jorginho for Kovacic made 0 sense to me. Obviously, some people might disagree, right? But in my opinion, that made 0 sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I was not happy with Tuchel today. I think he got it wrong. I think it's also, I do understand why he sticks to the back 3, but I think at halftime he should have changed it because clearly we weren't breaking them down. Clearly. And yeah, of course, if we defend better, but that comes down to playing Christensen. I don't think we concede that goal if Christensen starts instead of Zouma. You could say, yeah, if that we don't concede that goal, maybe we get a penalty, we win 1-0. Great. Lovely jubbly, we get another 3 points as much as it wasn't pretty. Good. But we were 1-0 down at halftime. And I think we should have changed to a back 4. Like, we were chasing the game. And even at 1-1, I think, like you said, in the 76th minute, change it to a back 4 for the last few minutes. But try it. Don't make these pointless subs and bringing Jorginho on for Kovacic, which isn't going to help us in attacking. If anything, hamper us in attacking, in my opinion. Taking Callum off again, leaving Alonso on the pitch, who, yeah, he was good the last few games, but that doesn't require him to play the full 90 minutes today. Unless Chilwell, and even if Chilwell plays against Atletico, that doesn't mean Chilwell couldn't have come on, or, like I touched on already, put Usby to the left, and, as a left back for the last 15 minutes of a game, that's fine. Have Reece as a right back, and then have a front four. Like, good enough. It works. Do that. And, like, I would give Tuchel as low as a 2 today. I think he got pretty much everything he could have gotten wrong. He got wrong today.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's very important for us to... Actually, John, firstly, I don't know how many people are watching, around 180. Laurenz is around 20 subs off 8.5k. We're on the road to 10k. We're on 95 likes. Please make sure you subscribe and like, because what he does is absolutely outstanding. And I know he promotes it, but it's important for other people to recognize good content creators. And there's none out there better than Laurenz. So please support what he does. But yeah, I agree with you, man. Tuchel got it wrong today. And this is part of the whole even the best managers get it wrong sometimes. It doesn't make him a fraud. It doesn't make him a poor manager. It doesn't, it's not this or that. There's no narrative that needs to be spun here. He got it wrong today. It happens. You remember when Pep, the whole Fraudiola stuff, like good managers get it wrong, and we sit here with the benefit of hindsight and not having to make those decisions and just criticize. And I agree with you. A 2 today is warranted because actually it was very poor. And I think people are going to not be best pleased about it. And, we actually see now that this is the criticism that PSG and Dortmund had with Tuchel, that he can be ruthless sometimes. And he was that today. I personally don't have a major issue with the ruthlessness. It's just who you choose to be ruthless to. I don't think Hudson-Odoi warranted being subbed off again. I don't think that's the right decision. And hopefully Tuchel will perhaps concede that was an ill-advised move. But, there's like I said, no narrative needs to be spun. He's still an outstanding manager. Even the best get it wrong. Do you know what I mean? There are certain games when Messi and Ronaldo don't score. Like, sometimes it just doesn't work out. Like, it just has to be one of those games where we can be critical, we can identify weaknesses. I'm not going to cover the points you made because you actually touched on everything that he should have done right and he didn't do wrong with player selection and substitute choices. But yeah, 2 out of 10 seems okay. Like, let's not forget we didn't actually lose. Just the manner of the performance was really, it feels like a loss, which is, I guess, a good thing from a fan's perspective, because now we have an expectation, don't we? Not just in results, but a manner of and a style of play. Like, if we played well but still drew, there wouldn't be any of this conversation. It's just everything was negative today, and that stems from the aesthetics of the football and the decisions made because of that, and the certain decisions made prior to the football that impacted the way it looked and the way we played. And it looked like the squad had a poor attitude, no direction, and generally a weak performance against a Southampton team that are well coached and well drilled, but their squad's not amazing, and they're on a 6 game. They haven't won us in 6 games, so they've had 6 losses in a row. So not ideal, poor decision making, poor choices, and hopefully Callum bounces back, which he should do really. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even though I know Pys said, what did he say, 6 for Tuchel, which I think is outrageous. But I'm just gonna decide that that's irrelevant and do it too. That's what happens when you need to leave early. But I do want to touch on 1 or 2 last things before we round this out. We can go for 1 hour and 45 minutes. These usually take, but I guess
it's always a pleasure, mate. It's always a pleasure chatting though.
Exactly. Like, also, when there's a loss, not a loss, not a win, a bad result. There's more to talk about than when you win, I guess. But it's also quite funny that after Tuchel obviously firing shots at Lampard, saying Tuchel knows what he's doing, that the game went him up, and it's quite ironic. Obviously we got a draw with Frank as well, but that was at least a 3-3 draw, and scoring goals wasn't the issue. I will say that. Obviously it was very different issues today, but still, I think Tuchel got it wrong. But I agree with you. I like the ruthlessness in a sense. And if Callum came on and was really bad, but other players weren't really bad, then I think it's actually good to take him back off. I think that for especially young players, they sometimes need to kick up that butt. But today, that wasn't the situation, in my opinion. Was he bad when he came on? Yeah, I think he could have done a lot of things better. Was he lively? Yes. Was his counter pressing not as good as it maybe should be? Maybe yes. And maybe that kind of kick up the butt is what will make the team even better in terms of counter pressing and then creating more chance of scoring more goals. So I don't disagree with this. But the fact that how bad Alonso and Werner particularly were, and to leave them on the pitch, just didn't make any sense to me. Didn't make any sense. But we're going to leave it here. Like Jay said, first of all, cheers for the shout out earlier. Subscribe to the Chelsea Social. It just hit 1,000 subscribers, but we don't stop there. So every one of you, just go down below, click the @ in the second line or whatever it is of the description. Subscribe to them immediately. Check out Jay McIntosh on Twitter. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate every single one of you that has tuned in. It's been a long one, but I hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button. Have we hit the 100 likes? Let me check. We are on 99 likes. So one more of you, go down below, smash the like button right now. Then we are on 100 likes. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like I said a couple of times, on the road to 10,000 subscribers. So the more of you that subscribe, very close to 8,500. Apparently 20 away, Jay said. I haven't checked since before. So subscribe if you haven't already. Smash the like button. Become a member if you fancy it. Click the join button underneath. Like I said, check out the Chelsea Social. Check out Jay on Twitter. Check out CFCPys on Twitter. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea. I'll see you tomorrow with a stream with CFC Mods at 4 p.m. UK time to round out this game in a little bit of a different angle, I guess, and also having slept on it a little bit and also heard more of the post-match interviews and stuff. We'll do that. So tune in for that. Get subscribed if you don't want to miss that. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and I'll see you next time.